Story 1. The Phantom Hitchhiker. It was a moonless night, and I was driving alone on a desolate stretch of highway. My headlights pierced through the inky darkness, creating a narrow tunnel of visibility. The only sounds were the soft hum of my engine and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. I had heard the stories about a phantom hitchhiker who haunted this road, but I never believed in such superstitions. That was until I saw her. She appeared out of nowhere, standing on the shoulder of the road. A young woman with long, wet hair dressed in a tattered white gown that billowed in the wind. Instinctively, I slammed on the brakes and pulled over. It was pouring rain, and I couldn't leave her out there in the storm. She climbed into the back seat without saying a word, and I continued driving, trying to make small talk to ease the tension. As I glanced into the rearview mirror, I noticed something unsettling. Her reflection seemed distorted, as if she were melting. Fear gnawed at my gut, and I sped up, desperate to get away from this eerie passenger. But no matter how fast I drove, she remained in the back seat, her twisted reflection never leaving the mirror. Terrified, I reached my destination and parked the car. I turned around to confront her, but the back seat was empty. The phantom hitchhiker had vanished into thin air, leaving only the chilling memory of her presence. Story 2. The Haunted Backroads. Late one night, I found myself driving along an isolated backroad in the countryside. The winding path was flanked by dense woods, their branches casting eerie shadows on the asphalt. I was navigating through this desolation when I noticed an old, decrepit house nestled deep in the trees. A faint flickering light in one of the windows caught my attention. Curiosity getting the better of me, I decided to investigate. Parking my car by the roadside, I cautiously approached the house. The door creaked open as if welcoming me inside. The interior was filled with the musty scent of decay, and my footsteps echoed through the empty rooms. I was about to turn back when I heard a faint whisper coming from the basement. Descending the rickety stairs, I discovered a dimly lit chamber. There, in the center of the room, stood a dusty antique mirror. My reflection in the mirror seemed normal at first, but then it started to change. My face contorted into a grotesque, twisted visage, and my reflection began to speak in a chilling, otherworldly voice. Story: The Unseen Passenger. It was a moonless night, and I was on a long, empty stretch of highway driving alone to visit my family. The road ahead was illuminated only by the soft glow of my headlights, and the darkness outside seemed impenetrable. Rain was pouring down in torrents, making visibility even worse. As I continued down the road, my windshield wipers worked overtime to clear the rain, but it did little to alleviate my unease. The feeling of isolation was palpable. No other cars were in sight, and the occasional flash of lightning only served to reveal the eerie emptiness of the surroundings. Suddenly, a strange sensation washed over me. It was as if someone was in the back seat, watching me. My heart began to race, and I nervously glanced in the rearview mirror. There was nothing there, just the dimly lit interior of my car. I tried to shake off the feeling, attributing it to the darkness and the desolation of the road. But the sensation persisted, growing stronger with each passing mile. It was as though an unseen presence was closing in on me. I turned up the volume on the radio, hoping that the sound of music would drown out my anxiety. But as I did, the radio suddenly emitted a distorted, high-pitched screech that sent shivers down my spine. I fumbled to turn it off, but the noise continued, growing louder and more piercing. Terrified and desperate, I slammed on the brakes and pulled over to the side of the road. The screeching abruptly stopped, leaving me in silence once more. My heart pounded in my chest as I sat there, trying to make sense of what had just happened. After a few minutes, I cautiously resumed driving, but the feeling of an unseen passenger remained, and the darkness outside seemed even more oppressive. Every sound, every shadow, sent my imagination into overdrive, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something malevolent was lurking just out of sight. I finally reached my family's house, and as I stepped out of the car, I couldn't help but glance back into the rear seat. It was empty, but the sense of unease lingered. To this day, I can't explain what happened on that lonely, rain-soaked highway, but I'll never forget the chilling sensation of being accompanied by an unseen, malevolent presence in the dead of night.